So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're going to be covering open positions here in the system, and I'll try to do my best to catch up to where we should be. So we're going to start here in self-service, but I'm going to immediately go over to the settings because that's where really the setup is, and we'll talk about what the managers can do in the software a little bit later. So I already have a tab open here for open positions. Now, to open a position, the key is you do need to have positions set up in your system. So first step is really to make sure you have them set up. I already have some set up, but you can see them in here. So if I pick a position here, you'll see as an example, I'm not going to go over all the settings that go into position, but this is what would be used when you create an open position, especially what's under the recruiting portion over here. So you can see you can put down different things in here about the amount of experience and requirements, et cetera, that you can put down on here. A job description. So if you'd like to have a nice job description out here, you can do that and have that out here to cover this. So you'll see here, if you want to copy and paste, you can do that right into here. This allows copy and paste, or you can type and then do the different formats up here for this. So if I type something here, you'll see I can then change the formatting of it. I can like highlight a word and make it bold and do these different things in here. If I want to make the font size bigger or something like that, make it colorful, whatever it might be that I might want to do, I can do that. But what's going to happen is this job description right here, if I open up a position on merchandise or merchandise seller, it's going to use this job description when it creates the open job. So a good idea would be to put your job descriptions in here. And then the nice thing is that when you open a job, you can always edit that on the open position, because maybe you're hiring a merchandise seller, but in the exact posting, you want to mention that it's for a certain location, or maybe something is a little bit different about the particular opening of merchandise seller rather than like the generic merchandise seller. But this is what it's going to use by default. If I go down here, you'll see skills. So you can add skills in here. This is something that we covered when we talked about learning. So you might want to put, sales skills down here, and you select, I don't know if I have any skills set up, but you select those down there. And so you can kind of see how, I don't know if I have, here we go. Let's just say Excel is required and they need to be satisfactory on that. So you can add one or more skills down here. Now we are expanding this in future updates to include other things, like you'll be able to put down certifications and courses that are required for jobs. And now that will allow you to do a few things. First off, employees will be able to look and see what skills are required if I want to move up in the position. I'm currently an admin assistant and I want to be a merchandise seller. What skills do I need to get? What courses or certifications do I need to get to move up in the company, or to move laterally to a new position, something like that. So you'll be able to do that. Right now, they can see the skills, and you can then also search by skills when you open a position. All right, let me just cover these other things. You may have seen these before. If you've ever set up a position, you'll see here things like the default number of hours per day and days per week and stuff you might use for reporting purposes. And then, just going down here, you like the location, the type. One important thing is the full-time equivalency. This can have an impact if you do have position control turned on. If we have, as an example, 25 here as the number of full-time equivalents, we want to see if I've already have 25 of these people hired and full-time, so they're all using one FTE, I will not be able to hire somebody into this. Also, if I search for open positions when I'm creating a job, it won't see this one because it's full. So just in case, I'm going to bump this up to 30 because I don't remember if I have 25 already in my system. But you can use that to control, is this position actually open? If you have an example, one FTE in here and you've already got that one person in the job, it's going to be an open, it's not going to be an open job when you go to hire for it. Now you can override that when you do an open job. You can tell it, I don't care if the job is currently open, because maybe you're replacing somebody who's retiring at the end of the month. So you're searching now, they're going to start in June, the other person's going to be ending at the end of May. That's okay. Of course, they're going to be gone before the other person starts, and you're not going to have a situation where you have more full-time equivalents than allowed. All right, you'll see the other things here, department and cost center. You may have these filled in. I'm not using a lot of these fields here, but if you are in the US, maybe you would need to put stuff for EEO reporting and workers' comp, stuff like that. You might need to fill those things in. A category, you might be using this to track some information in there. This can be used, for different purposes. There's not really a common one for this. Then the wage information. You'll see like the target pay rate. And if you have a salary grade, like I have $15 to $20 an hour, so you can kind of see how that is right there. All right, I'll go ahead and submit that change. I don't have a workflow on this, so it's going to allow me to immediately post that. But if I did have a workflow, it would stop it. So here's actually a good example. I have 22 merchandise sellers. So I think I just bumped it to 30. So right now I've got 8 openings because right now there's 22 people in there. All right, if I want to see who those 22 are, I can click on it right there. All right, so now what does this mean as far as the open position is concerned? Let me go back over to recruiting. And here you'll see the open jobs. Now I probably already have one for merchandise seller, but let me open a new one. Now this can be done also in self-service, but it's going to be the exact same steps. The difference is if I do it in self-service, it's going to possibly have a workflow to approve it. So to do it in self-service over here, if I go to job postings, you'll see right there, create a new job posting. So if I'm the hiring manager for merchandise seller and I want to create a new one, I can do that by selecting the position, merchandise seller or whatever. You'll notice here's that checkbox or that toggle to show unassigned positions only. In other words, one where there's openings. So if this one where there were 22, if I said there should be 22 FTE and I've got 22 already, this wouldn't be here. In fact, I don't know if I will have any that show up. You see how like it's limited to only 6. The other positions are already full. And then I open it up and all these other people show up. So let me just do merchandise seller there. All right, now these other fields you'll see on here. Now, of course, I'm hiring for merchandise seller. Maybe externally when I post this out to a job board or we use the job board that's built in, maybe if I send it to Indeed, something like that, I want to call it something else. Maybe externally or general, terminology is different than what you call it internally. Perhaps you use a coding scheme or you have a more technical term that maybe people wouldn't understand externally. So maybe you just call this like vendor or something like that, because that's what people might understand, vendor, more than, seller or something like that. I don't know. Requisition number, let's just put one in here. All right, the location. Now this pulled the location from the position. So this is at the Richmond position location there. The salary, this is a text field, so I can type anything I want. So I want to say starts at 15. All right. Max of 20. So good example of how I could do that. I could just type a number in there. I could say $15 per hour or something, or just 15.00 or whatever. All right, the status. So there's different statuses out here. Of course, I'm opening this, so I'm just going to want it to be open. What date would I like to open this? Maybe it is in the future. Maybe I need to start it today. I'll put that there. Internally, maybe I want to hire early or later. Internally, I could do that. And then close date, what this would do is if I publish it somewhere, I might say after the 31st, let's go ahead and just pull down all that publishing because I don't want it out there for people to apply anymore. Now, after the 31st, I'm going to go and hire people that have applied. So between now and 31st, for those 3 weeks, let's go ahead and just take all the applications we get, all the resumes and so forth. But after the 31st, it's externally not available. Now I'm going to go through everybody who applied and find that person who's the right fit. Okay, it put me as a hiring manager. So right there, I don't need to worry about that. Who's the recruiter? And let's just say that Chris is the recruiter here. Maybe I need to put some notes. I go ahead and do that. Here you'll see these defaults. So the question set that we're going to ask, these question sets are, of course, questions that the applicants are going to answer. You'll see some examples there. I think I got 5 questions there, different things that they might answer during the application process. These could be knockout questions or things like that. An employment for application. So perhaps there's a form you would like them to fill out. Maybe it's not one where there's generally resumes submitted. So you might have an application form that's going to collect that type of information that might not normally be on a resume. The review template. So what this allows you to do is you might have different questions or different assessments that you want your people who are interviewing to ask the interviewers or to judge the interviewers. They're going to go through and they're going to score them out of 5 different categories, give them like a rating of 1 to 5. So this is similar to a performance review. We did have training on performance review earlier this year, so you can kind of look and see how that works there. But this allows you, if you like, when you're doing the recruiting and the interviewing, you can actually have different scoring on those people who are being interviewed. Here's that job description. So you might remember I typed something and there you can see that right there. At this point, I can edit this though. So if I want to say desired education, high school, maybe I want to override this, I can do that. So it pulled in the defaults, but I can override it at this time. So I could copy and paste if I had a description, like in Word or something like that. I could paste that here. Here, if I have some attachments, maybe there was like a paper form or something like that that I had signed by somebody. I wanted to scan it and attach it there. I could add one or more attachments here, and then the recruiter would be able to see them and see, oh, okay, there's that paper form that is the request. Maybe you do have like some traditional stuff, or maybe there's an example that you want to advertise with. So maybe it's attached to this. I don't know. You could use this to send attachments from the hiring manager to the recruiter and vice versa. All right, so once this is done, I'll go ahead and submit this. Now, if I have a workflow in place, what's going to happen is it's going to go and follow that workflow to be approved. All right, if I had one, it's going to perhaps go to the recruiter or HR or whoever it is to get approved. Once it's approved, it would then show up as an open position, and I could then publish it out to different job sites. Now, what does that look like on this side? Let me just refresh and I'll see that new one here, that vendor right there. Of course, I opened it today, so it hasn't been more than 0 days there, and no candidates have applied. And now when I click on it, I see all of that information over here on this side. Okay, so the same information is there. If I added an attachment, I'd be able to download that attachment over here. Maybe I want to send another attachment back or something like that. Here I can see the details of the position. So as the recruiter, you're able to see a little bit more. This is from the position setup. So you can see some of these things in here. All right, so those different things are in there. And then publishing. So this is where you may want to publish out to various boards and sites like this. So you'll see here, we already published this to the career site when it was approved. It's automatically published to the career site. But if you work with one of these other services, you may want to publish to those as well. So let me show you how those are set up, and then we can talk about publishing to those, including the Criterion community. So I'm going to go over to my settings and go to the recruiting administration. And here you'll see job publishing sites. And these are all right here. So career site, let's just look at this right here, how this works. Now, this is the one that we host that can be embedded into your website. So you won't need a username and password for that because it's already taken care of. But you'll see different things here. First off, you want to enable it, assuming you want to use it. It needs to be enabled. And this is the default one that's going to be used when we publish, when a job is approved. All right, a custom redirect, what that allows you to do is after somebody has finished their application, rather than going back to the job portal and the list of jobs that are out there, maybe there's a page you'd like them to go to that says, thank you for applying. All right, so it shows a video or something else. It's a thank you for applying page rather than right back to the list of jobs. You would just check that box and put the URL here for whatever that site is you want them to go to. All right, here's the formatting for that, and we'll show you what this looks like so you'll know kind of what we're talking about here. But you'll see how you can choose, maybe you want it sorted by different things, let's say by work location and then department or something like that. All right, do I want to show these various fields? Maybe I don't need to show the requisition code and the position type, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off there. All right, when we actually get into the actual job, not the list of jobs, but individual jobs, do you want to show these check boxes? So let's just turn off the type right there. All right, here's different options for how the portal looks. So if you'd like to have a certain background color, go out there, use the color picker to do it. Or if you know the hex code, which is something you can search for online, there's a million different websites, I'm sure, to help you find out the hex code for different colors. You also might get this from your account, your marketing team. They might say, hey, our default colors are this, and they might tell you what the hex code is for that. You could type that hex code in here, and it will select that color automatically. All right, so that's the code there. The text color, so right now mine is a background that's white, and the color is black, but I could change those. Maybe I wanted it to be like blue and yellow or something, I don't know. All right, you'll see some options here. Do I want to show a button that allows people to apply with Indeed? Possibly, I want to do that. Do I want to ask the questions on the question set? Yes. And then is this the internal site as well? So you can use this same site for internal applicants if you like, or you can have a different one for internal. All right, the widget width. So if you're going to take this and put it inside of your own website, how big of a frame are you setting up? That'd be probably something to ask your web development team or your people who are providing your website. How big of a frame do you need? You can type that number in here. Once you do that and you have all your other options set, you'll see down here we have the frame code that you can then use for your website. So you just copy this to your keyboard, give it to your team that makes your website, and they can embed that in your website. Oops, sorry about that. I'm operating left-handed because I broke my right wrist. So sometimes I'll click things inadvertently. Go ahead and save that. So that's set up there. Now let's look at these other ones. The other ones for here, the different sites here, Indeed down to Job Target, they're all going to be the same looking when I go into it. So I'll click on Indeed as an example. So let's say you have an Indeed account. You could put the username and password here so that if you enable this and you publish to Indeed, this will publish and be linked to your account. And then you can go and promote it if you want to do that. So you would just put your username and password here if you're going to use Indeed. If you're not, you can just turn this off as enabled and it won't be enabled for you, but that's up to you. And these are going to be the same settings if I go to any of these other ones that say, Google. All right, same thing. So if you're going to use these sites, you can do that right there. Let's look at the Criterion communities. So this is a new feature we added in the latest update from a couple of weeks ago. This allows you to post out to this page here. So this right here, where I have my little webinar thing here, I could post right to that. So what community would you like to post to? You can create a community over in your employee engagement, I think is where it is. Yeah, I couldn't remember. So you can create a community for this, and then you can say who sees that community. Now, you only can do to one community. So if I was going to maybe open a job that's available for the accounting department, I can't have like just post to the accounting community. It's going to always post to the accounting community. And so if I needed to say accounting department could see this, but next time maintenance department could see it, I can't do that that way. What I could do is get the link and then make my own manual postings if I needed to have it for specific communities each time. So this is kind of like one community for all postings. So you would select that. All right. And I'll go ahead and just do that right there. I'll save. Now, social networks. So this would allow you to post to things like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. That's your social feeds and not their their job boards if they have a job board. So this is the social feed, and it's not using like their APIs. You actually have to log in to those accounts to post to those, but it does create a link that comes back to our portal. All right, so let's say you set those up right there. Now, question sets, I talked about that on a position. So let me look at that real quick, just so you can see how a question set is configured. So it needs to have a name and a description, pretty straightforward there. You can have the different languages. So if you maybe are advertising to English and French speakers or something like that, you can have the question set in multiple languages here. And now you'll see the different questions you may want to be asking your people. So whatever order you like, you put them here. You can use these arrows on the right to rearrange them, but this is the order it's going to be in my situation. What's my favorite color? What state do I live in, etc. If I wanted to rearrange it, maybe move my, I don't know why I've got colors on here twice, but maybe I wanted to move that up. I could use this arrow to move it up or down, depending on how I want to do that. All right, so how do I create a question? Very simple. Add a question, and then you'll see the data type. This determines what the person is going to be doing. Are they going to be entering in text? Is it going to be a date field? Is it they going to be uploading something perhaps as an attachment, numeric field, selection from a menu? So that's from one of our code tables. You can create a custom code table and link it to that if you like. So selection from a menu, I need to choose which menu I'm going to choose from. These are all of our code tables. All right, if I do text as an example, it's a text area. Now with text and text area, you need to tell like the maximum number of size. So text is the number of characters. So maybe you want them to what's your favorite color? And they're just going to type something, and you can probably make pretty small, maybe like 20 characters. If you wanted them to type in a paragraph or two of data, first off, that'd probably be a text area. but then you might also want to say that that maybe is 10 lines. Now it does scroll, but it would show 10 lines by default. All right, so give it a name. So maybe I say, is your favorite season? Okay, and then 10 characters should be plenty, because no season that I'm aware of is more than 10 characters, but of course you could make it larger. So I can make it 20 characters, 30. I can make it 200 characters, even though somebody might be typing fall. That's fine. I can make it larger. Basically, what you're doing is you're setting up a field in our database to collect this information. All right. Hidden means I'm no longer going to use it. Now, if you're creating one for the first time, probably don't want to make it hidden unless you're not ready to collect information on it. Response required makes it a required question. And then knockout allows you to say, all right, if they answer this way, maybe it knocks them out. So maybe I'm doing from a drop-down menu or numeric, and I say, what state do you live in? And I only want people who live in Ohio, because they have to be like in Ohio to actually be on site, something like that. I could say, all right, if they don't choose Ohio, it's a knockout question. So that could be an example of that. Or maybe I say, how many years of experience do you have? And if they type in 2, that might be a knockout. I might say less than 3 is a knockout. So if they type in 0, 1, or 2, it knocks them out. All right, so I'll go ahead and save that so you can see how that works. Now, when I do that, it adds it to the bottom, and I can, put that up here. So there you go. Now, if I did have a question previously and now I want to hide it, I can hit that to show it. I don't have any hidden ones, but that's how that would work there. All right, and then go ahead and save that. Now, the reason why we had that hiding is because maybe you were collecting information previously. You're no longer going to do it, but you don't want to recreate the entire question set. So you can just hide that question, and it no longer is going to be asked. All right, so back to that open position there. What is it going to look like when I publish? So let me publish to my Criterion community. You'll see here's the example message. AFC Richmond is now accepting applications for vendor. And I can edit this message. All right, and there's the URL. It's going to take me to that, so I can go ahead and publish that. I did not check to make sure that cannot be added, not posted on the internal site. So did I not make it internal? And maybe I might, I got to make the internal site first, and then I can publish it. That's right, because as people internally are going to see this, so it makes sense. You need to have it on the internal site. My apologies, I knew that, and for whatever reason I forgot. I got to publish it internally. And now and I go back to my community and I refresh. Got to scroll down because that's my pinned one, but there we go. It goes as the recruiter. So if the recruiter wanted to change the message, they would be able to edit it. I'm not as the recruiter, so I can't. I'd have to log in as Chris, or Chris would have to log in to be able to edit this and do whatever he might want to do that message. But you can see how that worked right there. All right, so that's how that works there. Let me show you what it looks like on the portal here. So I'll go to job posting. We have a couple options here. This will copy that link. Of course, I can highlight it and copy it, but this will copy it to your clipboard. This will launch it into the another tab. Now, this is not embedded in anything, but this shows what it looks like if somebody were to click on the position. So this is what it looks like. This is where you might want to look at it and say, I don't really like that job description. Let's go ahead and change that. And then you go fix it, and then take a look at it again, refresh the page. You'll see the apply with Indeed. You may remember I enabled that in my settings, and as well as the regular apply is right here. And then here I get back to my jobs list. All right, as I mentioned, this is what could be embedded in your website. I don't have it embedded, so it takes up the full page. But remember that widget, I said, 700 characters or pixels wide, and I could change the colors and so forth. If I did that, I could embed this. Maybe you've got like your website, a button that says careers or jobs or openings or something. Click on that and it shows this embedded in your website. You'll first off, you'll see that we don't put our name on here or anything like that. If it's embedded in your website, people would not really have any idea unless they like right-clicked on view and saw, it says Criterion HCM. But we're not trying to advertise to applicants. It doesn't matter what we're using. They would just apply right there. All right, so that's what that looks like. And of course, I had it sorted by location and then department. So that's why I see that this way. The person can click on any one of them. There's that vendor one that they can click on. And of course, they can search from right here to do that. All right, so that's that here. You'll see I can also share socially, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. So to do this, you need to be logged into those sites. So you'll see here, I don't know if it's going to show the little pop-up window. I don't think it does. It actually popped up and asked me for my LinkedIn password, so I could fill that information in. Again, I don't think it shows this in Zoom. And now when I click on this, it's showing my Twitter. I'm not logged into Twitter, but it would show my Twitter one, and then Facebook, same thing. It's asking me for my credentials for those websites, but that's how I can share to those websites. All right, so that's really what you do in here. Now, once you have candidates, I think we're going to have training coming up on candidates. I'm not sure if it's on the calendar yet, but we're going to talk about candidates applying and then doing the hiring of a person, so kind of the whole process of a candidate. But we specifically wanted to focus on positions today and on how that works. So I think I took about as much time as I would have taken before. Let me show my slide here to kind of talk about what's coming up and switch this around here. So thank you for your patience today. I do apologize for the technical difficulties early on. But of course, there's our one. Here's our upcoming learning series webinar. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be at a conference. So I believe Connor or Patrick are going to do employee engagement. That's the stuff in self-service. We're going to talk about things like the feed, where you have our messages, the surveys, the feedback, those things that are, employee engagement, kind of getting their feedback on stuff, and getting them interactive on the self-service. So that's what that's all about in a couple of weeks there. Then we're going to go over to some payroll topics for a couple of weeks, talking about income overview and certified rates in June. So June's going to be payroll month. And then in July, going to talk about custom fields and custom screens. So that's our upcoming schedule there. I don't know if there was any Q&A that wasn't related to my technical things going on there. So if you did have any questions, you can reach out to us down there at the bottom. You'll see our email address, our phone number to reach out to us if there's any questions you might have. Of course, you can also hit the question mark, the help in the system, to get help on stuff. And from there, you can ask questions. If you do have some ideas about recruiting, as I mentioned, we're adding some features in there. I can't talk about everything, but we're adding features in there. But we're always open to new ideas, recruiting, HR, payroll, whatever it is. Please feel free to use the customer feature request portal for that, to request new features and upgrades, enhancements to existing features. So thank you again for joining us today, and we hope to see you again in a couple of weeks.